Yeah. Yeah, baby. I dropped 23 bands. Not full ported my whole portfolio or any of that. I got 23 bands in funding and I just dropped it on one ETF. One ETF, no hedges, none of that. No hedges, none of that. $23,000. I mean, I know some of y'all are rich mother puppers, but 23 bands, that's a lot of money. So here's the full story. I mean, I know I'm not a certified financial advisor, but just to be honest with you guys, I got some clients. I got some clients that I advise. One of them bought Texas Instruments at a really low level like 25 years ago. And I basically explained to him, that they had 100 shares of Texas Instruments. And I basically explained to them that Texas Instruments wasn't even in the top 10 semiconductor stocks. It had missed tons of gains in the AI boom, and it had just as much downside risk as a semiconductor ETF like SOXX, and that they were, basically playing Yahtzee stock picking one stock that was a dinosaur analog chip maker when they could be invested into CHPY, which owns all the best semiconductor stocks and pays a 40% dividend and had a 100% total annualized return over a 1 year period since its inception. And, he agreed. Reluctantly, he agreed. And so we worked something out for some assets under management. And, I'm making $10,000 with the client more per year. More per year just from CHPY. We full ported 100 shares of TXN into CHPY at just below $65. TXN was at 233, and we pulled the trigger, moved the TXN and then into CHPY. Did it. Everything was successful, and we're all Gucci in the Gucci store. But that's what I call BOOMERMAXXIng. That's what I in like really like if I had to. This is my untouched chart of QQQ, by the way. Perfect for multiple years. Perfect for multiple years. You guys are used to that by now, but I was perfect for multiple years on QQQ. Calling this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I now believe this is actually 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, wave 3, a wave 3 explosion for QQQ. Very similar to SPY, but I just, we got this clavicular person, clavicular. He's overdosing. He's getting arrested in Arizona, and but he's all about looks maxing, and they take the pentastack, which is 5 DRUGS that they take. And, they're taking all these DRUGS, and they call it the pentastack, and he overdosed, and but clavicular, he's a big looks maxer, and a lot of people think he OD'd right before he opened up his club for some publicity. People speculate he's funded by Peter Thiel. I said clavicular getting arrested was comms to buy Palantir. We saw how that worked out. But 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, wave 3 of wave 3. QQQ's going to 790 before a shallow wave 4 and a wave 5 higher up to 864. God damn. Another nest for the NASDAQ. So I'm boomer maxing, baby. I put 23 bands in the CHPY. 23 bands in the CHPY. No hedge. I can use the dividends to buy 50% CHPY, 50% YQQQ, but I got no hedge. I got no. We just moved from TXN to CHPY. I argued CHPY with the out of the money covered calls and the better semiconductor stock exposure was better than TXN. And if semiconductors go up for 2.5 more years, then CHPY will pay for itself in dividends, and we basically make 10 grand per year or more from the investment, plus the opportunity to reinvest the dividends and buy more shares. But we see Texas Instruments isn't even in the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 holdings. TXN isn't even in the top 10 holdings. I basically just looked at the market. I said 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, wave 3 of wave 3 for Microsoft. Microsoft is going up to 567 before a shallow wave 4 and a wave 5 higher. If wave 4 retests the wave 1 high, and wave 5 is the length of wave 1, places the wave 4 low, Microsoft is going up to the 760s for waves 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. A beautiful nest. Anyone who calls the top on Microsoft is an idiot. Google 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, wave 1, ABC wave 2. The length of wave 1 places the wave 2 low, takes Google up to 483 before a shallow wave 4 and a wave 5 higher. If wave 4 retests the wave 1 high and wave 5 is the length of wave 1, places the wave 4 low, Google is going up to 561. We see Meta 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the all-time low to the all-time high. Large wave 1, shallow wave 2, ends at 12. It ends at 524. Wave 3 takes Meta up to 1270 before a shallow wave 4 and a wave 5 higher. If wave 4 retests the wave 1 high and wave 5 is the length of wave 1, places the wave 4 low, Meta is going up to 1538. So I basically said, I know these aren't semiconductor stocks, but big tech is nesting. Really the NASDAQ was my biggest technical evidence for this. The Qs, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, wave 3 or wave 3. I basically bet that the Qs were going to explode and the semiconductors would probably outperform. Just based on the historical correlations, the holdings, the betas, all that. Semiconductors seem most poised to benefit from the AI boom in a way that Texas Instruments did not. I convinced this boomer successfully to switch from TXN and take a huge profit and put into CHPY, and we worked out a pretty good deal on the dividends. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, wave 3 of wave 3. The length of wave 1, places the wave 2 low, takes SPY to 844. Before a shallow wave 4 and a wave 5 higher. If wave 4 retests the wave 1 high and wave 5 is the length of wave 1, places the wave 4 low, SPY is going up to 900. So with this, $23,000 investment, I get $10,000 more dollars per year in dividends, and that's forever. That's forever. And that extra 10 grand, I go from being able to pay all my bills to being able to pay all my bills plus, an extra $10,000 in discretionary income per year. So it's looking pretty good. I think this is the way. I think this is the way. You look at BIGY from YieldMax, the top 50 stocks in the market, 13.63% total annualized return, 12% dividend. Compare that to SPY, basically the exact same holdings, Basically the exact same holdings, but with none of the dividends, just barely higher, barely less than a percent, 14.31%. Biggie's better than SPY, pays a 12% dividend, and I just think that this is the way. This is the way. Find the boomers, show them GPIQ, show them GPIX, show them BIGY, show them CHPY, Say, hey, I showed you this. I showed you how to monetize your wealth and actually get paid. Actually get paid cold hard cash. See what the boomers say. I call this BOOMERMAXXING. Because a lot of stuff is that. Greg Phillips of FEMA talking about supernatural encounters. FEMA. Supernatural encounters. April 14th. What did Puppy Trade say? What did Puppy Trade say? Puppy Trade said, I work for FEMA. Plane crashes, pandemics, and earthquakes will be blamed on aliens from planet Nibiru. FEMA and supernatural encounters with planet Nibiru. Oh, Puppy Trades, you're crazy. UFO scientist Amy Eskridge goes missing. She says the people are putting, feds are messing with her drawers. What did Puppy Trade say? I said people were going through my drawers. Oh, Puppy Trades is crazy. UFO scientist Amy Eskridge said strange people were going through her drawers before she died. Strange people were going through her doors before she died. She said there would be a cataclysm and the aliens from the future were trying to warn us. Cataclysm, aliens going through their drawers. What did Puppy Trade say? The exact same thing. I had a friend in college. We talked about, this is obvious. Waffle House teleportation. FEMA's known for the Waffle House Index. Supernatural encounters. FEMA. Waffle House Index. Now this woman from Florida takes a bunch of money from FEMA for hurricane relief. The Shreveport MS. What do you think it's programming? Hurricane Milton, Hurricane Helene, flooding out underground tunnels, and Disney World in Asheville, North Carolina, the Biltmore Estate. Like the Q crowd predicted, but it doesn't matter. I had a friend say to me in college, I told him I was going to stop jacking. I was gonna do No Nut November, and he said, Puppy, what if your DICK falls off from disuse? And I was like, dude, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. What if my DICK falls off from disuse? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But we talk about the First Amendment. We talk about the Second Amendment. The First Amendment is done. Do you not get that? The First Amendment is legally over. Again, Florida. The FEMA, fraud was in Florida. The Waffle House dude was in the Southeast. The Waffle House Index. Supernatural encounters. Teleportation like evacuation. This woman talked about Netanyahu and bonbons, and the judge said, I know it's a joke, but we'll see what a jury says. You know what's sad? If I just told you that was wrong, and that was messed up, you'd say, oh, he's anti this. Oh, he's anti that, so I gotta bullshit you. I gotta use the true community. She worked as an intern at Microsoft. An intern at Microsoft. What stock did we talk about earlier in this video? Microsoft. She's the strategic military communication to tell elites to buy Microsoft. Florida. You know who? Weapons. You know who weapons in Florida? FEMA funds stolen for hurricane relief in Florida. The Waffle House guy for FEMA teleporting like evacuating in the southeast. The Shreveport MS. It's hurricane programming. What religion is BB? What religion is BB? Which group is blamed on having the weather weapons? So we got the FEMA official, the FEMA representative robbing Florida. We got the Southeast FEMA official and the supernatural encounters. And I said word for word, I work for FEMA. And they're planning to blame natural disasters on aliens. Now, what do you know? They're putting a bunch of stuff about a FEMA official having supernatural encounters, and they're asking Trump about this. You know, it's just sad. But, you know, my friend, he was like, Puppy, if you don't use your DICK, it's going to fall off. You know, I don't really want to talk about the Second Amendment, but the First Amendment, like, white America can't use the First Amendment anymore. We can't talk. Have you heard one person complain about Mamdani's race tax in New York? Have you heard one person complain about Mamdani's race tax in New York? You know, the best thing that white America has going for them is that this woman's last name, who talked about the you-know-who's and BB and told that joke, her last name was Saldana. Gabriella Saldana. And what she talk about? A big bee in the ocean in Florida made by a you-know-who. You-know-who weather weapons. You know who space lasers? Hawaii 2023, but DWs. The Alabama woman, Amy Eskridge, she was a UFO researcher. She said there was going to be a cataclysm connected to aliens. Said government officials were going through her drawers, like I said. Members of the Freemasonic elites and the triangle with the one-eye people were going through my drawers, and the government was going through my drawers, and you guys said, oh, puppy trades is crazy. The best thing white America has going for it is two things. Black America is armed, and the next target, once they get rid of white America, are the Hispanics. I mean, that's really it. We're not going to wake up. We're not going to use our First Amendment. We're definitely not going to use our Second Amendment. Like, there was that stupid country song, Try That in a Small Town. You're a bitch. You're a bitch. Try that in a small town. Look at Irving, Texas. Look at Plano, Texas. What did anyone do? Did anyone do anything about that? This is Florida. This is Florida. Mamdani said we're going to tax white neighborhoods. Did anyone do anything about that? I know that's not a small town, but, you know. Try that shit in the hood. Let's see the mayor of Houston say they're going to tax black neighborhoods. Let's see what happens then. You know, here's the thing. We can't talk about this. White America has lost their First Amendment. White America has lost their First Amendment. You know, I can't speak for gay America. I can't speak for the hyper-liberal America. Nick Fuentes can say what he wants, but what, he loses his bank account? He's on the no-fly list? The only thing that we have going for us is that the Mexican community and the black community is realizing once white America is taken care of, they're next. They're not mad about Nick Fuentes, but they're mad about Kanye West. They don't like what's happening to Kanye. Gabriela Saldana going to prison for making jokes about BB and the bonbons in Florida. If you're a truther, you know what, you know who's in weather weapons in Florida. You know that's programming. African American official steals money from FEMA. You know that's programming. Waffle House Index, like the Southeast United States, FEMA official talking about supernatural encounters. You know what that's programming. You know what's coming to the Southeast this summer.